Hello and welcome to another episode of REI Talk Show, where we connect with South Africa's leading voices in real estate, business and investment. I'm your host, Neale Petersen, founder and editor-in-chief of Real Estate Investor. And today we're talking about a trend that's rapidly transforming the face of Cape Town's inner city, mixed-use developments. And from global hotel brands to repurposed office towers, Cape Town CBD is becoming a vibrant 15-minute city where people can live, work, play, and invest all in one place. And joining me to unpack this evolution is Grant Elliot. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Thibault Investments and Deputy Chairperson of the Cape Town City Improvement District, the CCID. And Grant brings deep insights from both the private and public perspective and has played a pivotal role in shaping some of the CBD's most exciting new developments. Grant, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us, and good to be able to chat to you.
Absolutely. So, Grant, let's just start with a bit of context for those that don't know you. Tell us about your role at Thibault Investments and the CCID.
So let me start with the CCID. I've been on the board of directors of the company for over a decade. I'm biased clearly for having been on there for so long, but we kind of think that the CCID is a sort of best-in-class organisation, and as far as an improvement district goes in South Africa, it equals its global peers in downtown associations around the globe. And as you know, our directorships and services to the CCID and other improvement districts is totally voluntary. We're there for the greater good and for the benefit of the district within its bounds for a start. My day job is effectively real estate management, ownership and development. I have a long career in the commercial property industry. I spent many years at Redefined Properties, and then didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but in the middle of the pandemic, I decided to join Thibault, which was one commercial building, which we were then converting into some apartments. I went from having a staff of 125 employees with me at Redefined to being the only employee in this particular company, but it's worked well. So, we delve into all aspects of the built environment. We did list a company called the Thibault REIT on the Cape Town Stock Exchange a year and a bit ago, and that has subsequently merged with the Harriet REIT, and my role is to really run their property portfolio here in the Western Cape.
Okay, wonderful. And I think we also underestimate the role of the CCID and the important role, in fact, that you're playing for the city. So, Grant, so there's been a real uptick certainly in construction activity and new projects in the Cape Town CBD. From your perspective, what's driving this rise in mixed-use developments?
There's a couple of factors. I think first of all, you've got to acknowledge how much infrastructural development the city of Cape Town are actually putting into place within Cape Town, Greater Cape Town and surrounds, that is, not just the CBD. Without that infrastructure, further property development actually isn't possible. You need better roads, you need better electricity infrastructure, you need more stormwater systems, you need more sewage plants and the like. So you have to acknowledge that, I think, number one. Secondly, their drive in overall economic development within Cape Town and surrounds in the Western Cape in particular with provincial government is phenomenal. And they really are making sure that they're keeping Cape Town as the continental leader in terms of tourism in particular. You've seen, the number of cruise ships that come into Cape Town's port, the number of flights that have been added and slots with overseas companies and guests coming into Cape Town. And that's putting landlords in a position where they know that their buildings don't need to be traditionally one sectoral based, an office building or whatever the case is. And then you've also got to wind the clock back to 2018, 2019 and 2020. We all know what happened when the pandemic hit. The fundamentals in the office sector in particular weren't great at the time. And office vacancies were high. They were better in Cape Town than they were in other parts of the country. But then there was work from home, and coming out of the pandemic, you had large office vacancies, and Dan was looking to use that space and try and generate some economics out of it. And you found then that conversions of these old vacant office spaces started taking place. And really, that's probably the 3 or 4 fundamental things that have driven mixed-use development, certainly in Cape Town. But we're not just seeing it in Cape Town, we're seeing it across the country.
That's good news. So, I mean, how's the concept of mixed use evolved in Cape Town? I mean, what does it mean today versus, say, a decade ago?
The concept of mixed use has really been around for donkey's years. It actually dates back to ancient times, and in particular ancient Greece. So the concept hasn't really changed. I just think we're seeing more and more of it. Not every building is able to lend itself to mixed use, certainly from a conversion point of view. New builds are different. They're designed from scratch. You look at the Riverlands development, which is taking place on the banks of the Liesberg River and Observatory. With the new Amazon headquarters, there's a big Checkers centre that's been put up there. There's a whole host of different classes of residential units that are going up. That's a fully fledged mixed-use precinct. You can look at Melrose Arch in Johannesburg, fully fledged, purpose-built mixed-use precinct. And then obviously the V&A waterfront down here in Cape Town. But as an example, we took the old BP building here in the Cape Town CBD on Thibault Square, and we rebranded it during the pandemic into One Thibault. It's a 29-story building, and we converted the top half of that into apartments. We sold off 5 floors, and we kept 8 floors. So, the rest of the building, from floor 14 and downwards, is actually all offices. So, not like a traditional new build planned mixed use. This was an afterthought, and what many landlords have done and are doing currently in Cape Town is just to get better use and economic use out of what was previously a building that was 60% vacant when we acquired it.
Sure. It's great to see the residential part coming into it as well. So just from an investor and urban planning perspective, I mean, what are the key benefits of mixed-use developments?
So mixed use, to my mind, it gives you a bit of a shield. We obviously know that the property is a cyclical industry. Mm-hmm. We've seen, landlords and property portfolios over many years where, a company was exposed, mostly to office buildings in the CBDs, or it was mostly a retail portfolio. When you've got a portfolio, even a single asset, with different uses in it, you shield yourself to some degree against those cyclical trends where one sector is maybe struggling, the other one will be holding it up. And in particular, when it comes to residential, and in particular in the Cape Town context, is really the short-term letting that aims to the leisure market, but also to the corporate travel market. With the amount of conferences that happen, certainly at the CTICC down here and other venues in the likes of Century City and surrounds. So really that's one of the benefits of mixed use. They're not necessarily easy to manage, particularly from a conversion point of view. Your different users don't always mix very well, so you've got to be very careful how you manage your access and your egress. We have parking problems, we've got traffic problems, and I think maybe that's one thing that is going to need to be looked at going forward, certainly in the CBD of Cape Town, is how we manage traffic. The congestion it's exacerbated when you have buildings that weren't traditionally planned to be mixed use with sort of leisure travel taking place. It puts quite a strain on the grid.
Okay, going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But Grant, you were directly involved in the conversion of One Thibault. I mean, what are some of the challenges and lessons that came out of that project?
So we were lucky to a large degree at Thibault. It's a building that's got very open floor plates. It's got external columns, so we didn't have to deal too much with all the nooks and crannies that you otherwise would have to in terms of getting your services in play. The one thing you've always got to be very careful of in these conversions is how you deal with your plumbing, in particular your sewage systems. The sewage stacks like to run in a straight line from top to bottom. They don't like bends, and at some point in a high-rise building, which was our case, you've got to join your traditional office design systems with what you're putting in at various points in each apartment on your floor plate, and that gets quite tricky. We had some issues with that. The other is you've got to make sure that your air conditioning systems are able to be adapted for both residential and commercial use. Commercial use really only happens during working hours. And then you've effectively got to be running an air conditioning system full time, because you have to have it running after hours for your residential. So when it comes to recovering costs from your commercial tenants, they would cry foul, and rightly so, if you're running your system 24 hours a day and they were only getting a benefit for 12 hours or so. So, yeah, and again, getting the ratios right and dealing with parking and traffic are two of the big things, and making sure that you split your usage in terms of your lobbies. It's another thing that we were quite fortunate with here is we've had 2 banks of lifts. One, we're able to go to the high-rise side of the building, so with all the apartments, and the others to the office floors. So we were able to split the lobbies and keep the patrons apart. I always use the example of the lawyer in the briefcase with a high-profile client, and Dora in her nightgown with her cigarette in her mouth coming down from the apartment to go and have a smoke outside. Those two don't do very well, and can present operational challenges.
Absolutely. So, so you've seen landmark projects like One Thibault, which you've just shared now. And I mean, there's also been the barracks, and there's been now Mama Shelter. So what makes these developments stand out?
The Mama Shelter is a very interesting one. It's a very eclectic brand of hotel by Innismore, overseas hotel company, and it really, I think, adds to that portion of the CBD. It's a conversion of the old Christian Barnard Academic Hospital. It's a large development, and I think it will have substantial appeal to a lot of Cape Townians, a lot of South Africans, and I think a lot of tourists to Cape Town alike. We're really excited to see it come out of the ground. I look over my balcony here every day, and I see all the tower crane activity, and we eagerly await its opening, which I think will happen sometime next year. But again, the Cape Town CBD already has all the building blocks of a 15-minute city, as you introduced it up front. It really is a concept that you are able to, as a human being, survive and thrive within a 15-minute walk or bicycle ride from anything you need as a human being. Going from education to shopping to medical care, etc. And we've already got all of that in Cape Town. We've got pedestrianised walkways. St George's Mall. There's portions of Bree Street that are being looked at, and Long Street that are at times put in place. You've got a fan walk that leads through the CBD through to the V&A waterfront, and I think that's what the Cape Town CBD is all about. Is that you have all these different pockets of excellence, and I walk the CBD frequently, and you really also have to go back and look at the role that the CCID plays on the streets of the CBD here. It's over 130 security guards on the ground at any one point in time. They've all got body-worn cameras, so whatever activity is happening is all being able to be seen for their safety and for people in the streets. You've got over 65 cleaners cleaning the streets every day. You've got 16 law enforcement officers contracted to the CCID by the City of Cape Town. You've got 6 traffic marshals. You've got teams of Straatwerk workers who were previously disadvantaged and jobless, who have been given work to uplift and beautify the areas, repair potholes, curbstones, and the like. And without that service as a top up to what the city's already got in place from their side as municipal services, I think you'd see the CBD struggling in comparison to it actually thriving right now.
Well, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about investment challenges, post-COVID opportunities. I mean, we've seen that mixed use looks attractive on paper, but what are some of the real world hurdles that developers face, especially with conversions?
The conversions, and I usually say funnily enough, but it's actually not funny enough, but the conversions are often much more financially viable than new builds. And the reason for that is that new builds are coming out of the ground at the moment between 30 to 35,000 Rand a square meter. Your conversion cost will come in at about 15 to 20,000 Rand a square meter. So depending on the value of your acquisition or the value in your books of the property that you're looking to convert, if you've held the building for a long time, or you've picked it up at a good price, you're actually going to get a far better return off your conversion. The returns, they're not simple, they're not easy, and they're not cheap, but it can be, if you've got the right building with the ability to be converted easily, to actually come in at better return on investment than a new build. I think the other factor is obviously with new builds and where you're seeing rental levels climbing to. We are starting now to see office rentals climbing in excess of 200 Rand a square meter in and around Cape Town at the moment. You're seeing it actually creep closer to 300 Rand in certain properties. And that obviously helps the yields on your new builds. Conversions are not for everybody. Let's put it that way.
No, absolutely. So you mentioned we're seeing confidence return to the CBD for office space, and how does that impact the balance between live, work, play?
Look, the conversions to residential, I think, are going to slow. You're starting to see that office supply now start to dwindle, and when those dynamics change, and a lot of that stock has been taken out of the market and your demand for offices starts increasing, you're going to see those office spaces actually get taken up. And that's going to mean that there will be less residential that will be developed, certainly from a conversion point of view in the city. Hopefully then what that means is you'll start to see new builds come out of the ground from a commercial perspective and from a retail perspective, and maybe additions to existing properties. We're aware of a number of new builds that are being proposed within the bounds of the CBD. I think some of them will have historic society challenges, but others I think will do very well. I suppose the debate around the live, work, play balance is, from a local perspective, if the majority of your stock is being let to the leisure sector or to the corporate sector, are you actually driving out your local resident from living, working and playing in the CBD? There is an element to that. But at the end of the day, every property developer needs to do the best with their asset that they can. The city would want that, in my opinion, because it obviously adds to their rates base. And they are clearly spending the money in the right places. So I don't see this trend changing for some time. There is talk of regulations coming into play from the Department of Tourism, if I'm not mistaken.
Hospitality sector.
That's right. We've yet to see any drafts of that. We don't know what really that is going to look like. But, the amount of jobs that the hospitality sector provides in Cape Town is nothing to sneeze at. And whatever does come through, cognizance needs to be taken of the amount of jobs that are a spin-off of the hospitality sector in particular in Cape Town.
Okay, great. So I'm really looking forward to what's next, for the Cape Town CBD. Are there any more major mixed-use projects on the horizon?
There are a few. I do know that there is a large parcel of city-owned land that is being thought to be put up on auction, which will be for quite a major development. I'm not at liberty to say what that is just yet. I'm not sure that it's public knowledge. So I'm going to get myself into trouble and jump down for it. But we'll certainly have our eyes on that. It does fall within the bounds of the CCID, so good for CCID levy contributions as well, if that can do. But it will be a major project that takes place. We also know, and this is public knowledge, that a piece of property next to the convention centre 2 was auctioned off last year, and that will be developed into a mixed-use building as well, or development. And then we do know that there's a site in and around Granger Bay, not within the CCID itself, but obviously outside the CBD, very close to the Cape Town Stadium, where another mixed-use precinct is going to be developed in the very near future. So Cape Town's not stopping, and we know that there are a few billion that is going to be spent in IC.
Excellent. Great. So, Grant, what advice would you give to investors, developers, or policymakers who want to tap into this opportunity successfully?
You've got to do your planning very carefully up front. I think a lot of developers jump in and they think that they can, do a mixed-use precinct very easily, easy to raise the funds, easy to actually build it. It's not. It's by no means an easy task. They come with complications because there's so many different factors that you've got to take into account and make sure that the uses are intertwined and segregated to a large degree. You learn a lot along the way, and you don't ever know everything up front. But you've got to do your homework first and be conservative. Don't think that your development is necessarily going to be the next best thing and that it will sell out in 30 seconds. A lot of developers claim that they do if they're selling residential or whatever the case is. It does take time. Be patient. The market will ultimately guide you in the direction that you need to go.
Correct. And finally, Grant, just in one sentence, why is mixed-use development the future of Cape Town CBD? Mm-hmm.
Difficult question to answer. I don't know if it is a one sentence, but I think it fits the culture of Cape Town. People want to be able to do things in close proximity to where they work. They want to be able. They don't want to have to walk too far. They want to have to get in the car and travel. It's a mental block in Cape Town for many who live in the deep south, as we call it, the South Peninsula, coming over Oud-Kaapseweg into the southern suburbs. It's over a mountain, and it literally is a mountain, but also figuratively. We've got all the ingredients already as a CBD, and we just need to make sure that we build on it step by step in good conscience and with good planning.
Excellent. Grant, thank you for sharing your insights and experience. I mean, it's clear that mixed use is more than just a trend. It's reshaping how we think about cities, investment, and lifestyle in South Africa. So until next time, I'm Neale Petersen. Thanks for watching REI Talk Show. Thank you. Thank you, Grant.